Okay, folks, Boirun, bienvenidos a todos. Let's get started with today's clase de Ladino. Just some housekeeping notes. As a reminder, all classes are available after the fact on our website. You can just go to sephardicbrotherhood.com/Sephardic Digital Academy. You can find all the previous classes and the coursework as well. In case you missed it or you want to review some of the old lecture slides, you can. So that's no problem. You can always download the information that could be posted shortly after the class. One other note I'm going to make before we begin class. We are in the middle of our end of the year giving campaign. It's the last 2 days of the campaign. The Brotherhood is a nonprofit, and we do appreciate any support you can give, especially we know it's a difficult period of time, but if you can, please consider donating during the end of the year. We greatly appreciate it. I'm putting a link in the description right now to donate if you're interested, and we always welcome whatever you can give is always very, very appreciated. So merci mucho to you all for that. Without further ado, we have our amazing teacher with us today, Karen Griffin Shalfon. Karen, bechavod.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos. ¿Cómo estás todos? Bien, bien, espero, ¿eh? Muy bien. Okay. So, today, what I'm going to do is a little bit different from the past 2 weeks. Jake, I see your background is Istanbul Istiklal. With a tram. Very good. Okay. So what I want to do today, obviously there's a very vocal group in the WhatsApp group that we have. So what I'm going to do is there was a lot of there were a lot of conversations, there were a lot of subjects that came up, there were a lot of questions. And then, by the way, I haven't finished all the homework that you sent me. I haven't finished correcting because there were so many mistakes. And you have not taken care of for anything, just, check your alphabet again. Please do not write in Spanish. This is not Spanish. It is Judeo-Spanish or Ladino. If there's a K sound, it's a K and not a C. And if there's please do not write a Y for the E sounds. So there's so many mistakes. So I haven't finished all of them, but I will, and I will send them back to you. But I would like to talk about certain subjects that came up both in the WhatsApp groups and also your personal questions to me on your emails. So I would like, first of all, to start with the history of Ladino, really, because that's what we're learning here. And I would like you all to imagine what we're doing and also what it is about. And because there was a lot of confusion. So, okay, in Spain, before 1492, before the Inquisition, okay, there was just Jewish communities all over the Iberian Peninsula, okay? And there were little kingdoms throughout the Iberian Peninsula. The biggest of these kingdoms was the Kingdom of Castilla. And the queen, as we know, the infamous Isabella, and she got married with Ferdinand of Aragon, another little kingdom, which, was situated where the Catalan speakers are today. So Catalonia is today. So when they got married, well, they wanted a united Spain. And so there were Jews all over the place. So what were these Jews speaking? They were speaking the dialect of the place that they lived in. Okay, so if it was in Aragon, they spoke Aragonese. If it was in Galicia, they spoke Gallego. If they were in Castilla, they spoke Castellano, right? So But still though, what happened was that even in their mode of speaking, whatever dialect it was that they were speaking, they kind of mixed certain words, especially from Hebrew, because of the really of religious reasons, really. Most of the religious terms came from Hebrew, like mazal and things that they took from the perashas, and also um, because somehow Hebrew was just for the religion. It was the sacred language. You did not use Hebrew to communicate, but you could be influenced, obviously, from Hebrew. And also, it is the case that in the 13th and 14th centuries, the rabbis who saw that people were kind of forgetting their religion and were not very good with the religion, etc., they started to translate the sacred texts that were in Hebrew into Spanish, the Spanish that they were speaking. So we see a kind of influence of Hebrew and also of the sacred texts. Now, when they were translating the sacred texts, they translated them motamo from Hebrew. Okay? So, in fact, when you read a Pesach Agada, for example, cuánto era demudada la noche la esta. When you say that, it's not a Spanish kind of structure. It is the Motamo translation of Hebrew. Okay, so this was the situation. Then they were exiled. Okay, so the Jews who came to the Ottoman Empire, I'm not talking about the Jews who went elsewhere, because Ladino is an Ottoman language born in the Ottoman Empire, because nowhere else were the Jews able to preserve anything that they took with them except for their religion and the religious traditions. Okay, so when they came to the Ottoman Empire, they settled in the western regions of Anatolia, Thrace, and the Balkans. So that was the region where you could find the Sephardic Jews. So what happened was, at the very first, they settled with people from their regions, that were originally in Spain, that people whom they knew. Okay, usually when you want to emigrate somewhere, you want to live with people you know. So basically, this is a very sociological phenomenon. Obviously, they wanted to live with people from their own localities. So people who came from Toledo, for example, they all formed what we call a male, meaning a little region, a little, not a little village, but a little. And so they all settled together. Then they started mixing. Of course, there were some Jews already existing in the Ottoman Empire when the Spanish Jews arrived. Okay, so these were the Byzantine Jews, that had been living on these lands for hundreds of years before the Spanish Jews came. But the thing is that the Spanish Jews were so numerous, they came in big waves, and they kind of swallowed everyone else. So, in fact, yes, we still have the Byzantine, descendants of the Byzantine Jews. We even have a few Ashkenazis. I call them the watered down versions of the Ashkenazis, because they have all married Sephardic people. And mainly the whole community, the Turkish community, is made up of Sephardic Jews, with a few here and there. I mean, you have the names like Chikvashvili and things like that, but they all married Sephardic people. So in fact, it became a big cauldron. So imagine a big cauldron, okay? And all these people who came from the little kingdoms all over the Iberian Peninsula. Then there was a time when for 30, 40 years. Some of them moved over to Portugal, and then they were exiled from there too. So there was some time in Portugal. Then on their way, there were some who came overland. On their way, they kind of stopped maybe in Italy, and they stayed there for a few decades. So imagine this: they're all now in the Ottoman Empire. There's a big cauldron of language, and in this you have the most popular of the Iberian dialects, Castellano. That's the basis. Okay, that's, the bottom of the cauldron. It's kind of full, and on it you have all the other dialects that come. Okay, and then even a little bit of the Portuguese effects, and then of course a little bit of Italian, so that gets dropped in because they stayed in Italy. And then of course, as they were living here on these lands, they started getting influences from the communities around them. Who were the communities around them? Okay, basically the major Turkish community. Okay, that was the biggest one. Now, I have to tell you, the Ottoman Turkish, okay, Ottoman Turkish was basically the language of the court. So Ottoman Turkish is based on 3 languages: Turkish plus Arabic plus Persian. Now imagine this variety. Turkish that has nothing to do with the other 2. It's part of the Turkic languages, completely different from the Semitic language that Arabic is. So Arabic is a Semitic language, same as Hebrew. So Turkish plus Arabic plus Persian, which is an Indo-European language, which is the sister language of Greek and Latin, okay? So just imagine, the Ottoman Turkish is such a great variety. It's rich with the mixture of 3 languages. So all that goes into the cauldron, okay? So any kind of neighborhood that the Jews had in Andalusia, for example, because they lived with the Muslims in Andalusia, okay, who spoke Arabic, obviously. So any influence that they got there from Arabic was kind of same here with the Ottoman Turkish, okay? So just imagine the influences. I mean, isn't that absolutely wonderful? Just imagine the richness of the environment that they had. So then, of course, most of these people were living in places which were made up mostly of Jews, okay? In a place where the shoemaker is Jewish, the fishmonger is Jewish, the greengrocer is Jewish, the grocer is Jewish, everybody's Jewish. And they have, of course, neighbors. They weren't in a ghetto, they weren't closed off. No, not at all. But just imagine Middle Ages, okay? 15th century, 16th century, 17th century, women did not go out. It was the men who interacted with others. When did the women go out? They went out when they had washing day. So washing day, where was washing day? At the river, okay? So they would go to anywhere that the washing was done, with the, there weren't any machines, obviously. And there they interacted with their neighbors. Who were mostly their neighbors? The Muslim Turks and the Greeks, okay? Armenians, not really, because Armenians were mostly in Anatolia and the East, okay? So basically you have 4 neighbors, Greeks and Muslim Turks. All right, so women were not allowed to learn Turkish. Now, in my thesis, I interviewed, and this was in 1980, in my thesis, I interviewed at that particular time in 1980s, a woman who was 84 years old, and she didn't speak a word of Turkish. So I said, come on, I mean, How is this possible? How is this possible? You've lived in this country for 84 years. She was 84 at the time, 84 years, and not learn one word of Turkish. And she said, oh, why would I need Turkish? Do I want a Turkish lover? So you mean I would be a bad woman if I spoke Turkish? So obviously it was some kind of taboo for women to learn. Why? So that they wouldn't assimilate, so that they wouldn't really fall in love with people who were not Jewish, obviously. So good way to keep women at home, and that way you do not give them the chance to fall in love with other people. Okay. So then we come to the 18th, 19th century. Now, 19th century is very important. Why is it important? Well, because in the 1860s, there was this wonderful, okay, there was this institution called Alliance Israélite Universelle. Okay, so this was a French institution. And in their constitution, it said, we will bring enlightenment to the retarded civilizations of the East. And obviously, we were one of the retarded civilizations to whom they brought enlightenment. And did they bring enlightenment? Well, yes, they did. They founded 115 schools all over the Ottoman Empire, French medium, they taught in French, and there were a lot of firsts. First time women went out of the home and into schools. First time women went to school. Before that, no women went to school. It was only the men who went to yeshivas, and in the yeshivas, obviously they learned Hebrew and they learned the religion. Okay. So with the Alliance schools, first, women went to school. Second, they were introduced to the Latin alphabet. Now, what does that mean? What kind of alphabet did they use at that particular time? I should have prepared this. Opa. This is the alphabet they used. It is called the Rashi alphabet. And as you can see, they look very much like Hebrew letters. However, some of them are not the same because they were adapted. These letters were adapted to be able to read Judeo-Spanish, Spanish, okay? So in fact, these letters here, and you see the little letters underneath, those are called solitreo, and that was the handwriting. Very difficult to read. So for the first time, they were introduced to the Latin alphabet. Now, Latin alphabet obviously is easy compared to Hebrew or the Rashi alphabet. So what happened? Suddenly, all these people started reading the classics, Western literature, Western philosophy. They started to be face to face with all these Enlightenment ideals, like it was like a Renaissance. The French ideals, liberté, égalité, etc. And it was wonderful. So women were also taught careers. Now, here comes the big change in the community. When you get the women out, ooh, you lose control. Because the power of women is so that, well, you know, it's everything. When the woman is at home, then she is the main transmitter of all values, language, traditions, everything to future generations. Get the woman out, And of course, that is a big progress, but there's always a price to pay for progress, always. So as soon as the women are out, and most of them became teachers, um, they became dressmakers, uh, lots of other uh, careers as well. And immediately the demographic environment started to change. Now, with the Alliance schools, here's what happens. Because the Alliance schools were French medium, they taught in French. So the community was divided into two, really. The people who spoke and knew French because of the Alliance schools, and there were so many of them that, you know, a lot of people went to those schools and got educated in those schools. And they considered themselves the elite class. The elite class because they, you know, they considered themselves to be modern and to be uh, progressive and enlightened, you know. And there was the class that did not have the opportunity to go to the Alliance schools. And so they were what, what people called la clase baja, means the bus class or the lower class, okay? So in fact, I mean, my father, who was a very funny man, he had loads of anecdotes, bilingual anecdotes with Judeo-Spanish and French of people who didn't know really French and who aped, you know, who tried to speak French but couldn't and made lots of very funny mistakes. But French kind of dominated the scene for 100 years, starting from 1860s until end of 1960s, beginning of 1970s, okay? So it was a big, big, big influence. That is why we have so much influence from French in Judeo-Spanish. I mean, it's the same in English, actually. Half of English is made up of French words because of the the French dominated the English islands for so many years, 100 and some years. It's the same thing, really. But not just French. Also, there was a lot of Greek influence as well. I keep finding new words that have arrived from Greek. Let me give you my favorite example. When the Jews arrived in the Ottoman Empire, the fork had not been invented yet. I read in the history of the fork that the fork was invented in the 1530s or 40s or something like that. So, okay, the fork was invented. What do? There's a new instrument. What are they going to do? They can't very well phone Spain and say, hey, we've got this, what do you call it? Obviously. So what they did was they took the Greek word, which is piruni, actually, and they changed it into piron. So the Ladino word became piron. And like this, there's a lot of influence, a lot of Greek words like escularicha, you know, earrings, and mandalakia. Though with mandalakia, I'm not very sure because, you know, the Turkish word is mandal. You know, the thing that you hold the, you know, when you hang the washing, those things, the pegs. What do you call them? Pegs, pins, whatever. Anyway, mandalakia. Well, some of them are so interchangeable. I mean, Greeks and Turks have been neighbors for so long that, you know, a lot of words have come to be in both languages. I went to the Balkans. There's so many Turkish words in the Balkan languages, so many Turkish words because of obviously of the long Ottoman history in the Balkans. So do not be, I mean, I have all my life, I have heard people in my community saying, oh, this is a Turkish word. We shouldn't use that. Well, what the hell are you going to use? I mean, obviously, this word has come into the language and people have been using it. And there's no sense in having an inferiority complex about that. Okay. And by the time the 1970s arrived, a very important thing happened also. In 1934, there was the alphabet reform in Turkey after the Turkish Republic was founded. So what happened was, in all communities throughout the Turkish Republic, there was a cut, the before and the after. So the before, all the literature, all the books, all the text that had been written in the old alphabets suddenly could not be read anymore. After 2 generations, finito, they were forgotten. Same with the Turkish. Old Turkish could not be read anymore. And same with Ladino and the other languages that passed to Latin letters instead of their own alphabets. That did not happen with the Greek community, did not happen with the Armenian community, because they continued using their own particular alphabets, even after the reform, because they were allowed by the Lausanne Act that they had the right to use their language in the school. So when the Jews wanted to continue with their own kind of education, they were told, oh, okay, your language is Hebrew, so you can teach in Hebrew. But Hebrew at that particular time, 1924, that was only the sacred language. So they said, oh, okay, if you can't use Hebrew, then use Judeo-Spanish or Ladino. But Ladino had never been taught in schools, you see? That was the problem. They wanted to continue in French. So they said, oh, okay, why French? There's nothing to do. You have nothing to do with French. Why French, And of course, they had to close. All the Alliance schools were closed. And that's when French education kind of ended, except for the Catholic French schools that still exist in Turkey today. We have Saint-Puchery, Saint-Michel, Saint-Joseph, Notre-Dame de Sion, etc., etc., etc. We have all these schools, okay, but they are Catholic French, not Jewish. So what happened then? 1970s, people considered Ladino a dead language. It's finished anyway. What use are we going to have? This is a salad anyway. So the two very, very basic examples I used to hear were sentences like El vapor ya nasceo al Cupri, and where you have most of the verbs, most of the words in Turkish, even though the verb yanaşmak, which is the Turkish, come closer, works conjugated in Spanish anyway. But they could very well say, la barca se acercó al ponte. I mean, it's not that we don't have the vocabulary, it's that it was forgotten because people didn't read anymore. So that was the time when really things were going, really it was declining and could have died. In fact, there is this linguist lady, Tracy Harris, who wrote a book called Death of a Language, a Case Ladino. Okay, she considered Ladino dead. Then I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but in 1992, in 1990s, the Cervantes Institute opened in Istanbul. And also in 1990s, until that time, Turkish Jews did not travel much. They didn't have, it wasn't necessary. I mean, in summer, they used to go to the islands or on the Asian side. They had a good life. But then they started traveling and they realized that even the 2-3 words that they knew in Ladino served them in Spanish-speaking countries, in the United States, especially in southern United States, where a lot of people speak Spanish. And suddenly they thought, oh, okay, so this, what we have is not so worthless anymore. And they started flocking to the Cervantes Institute to learn Spanish. And Cervantes had to open special classes for the Sephardic Jews, because obviously the Sephardic Jews knew certain things and didn't know other things, but they couldn't be put with the zero beginners. And then that's when there started a revival of the language. Also in the beginning of 1990s, in Israel, we have the foundation of the Autoridad Nacional del Ladino y su Cultura. That is very, very important, because for the first time, a government has an institution, a government-based institution that protects and spreads the language. So that also. Now, the first order of business for that institute was how to standardize the alphabet. Now, here we come. This is very important, okay? I attended a lot of reunions of all these Ladino aficionados throughout the world. So there were experts, and so there were a lot of, and people were just fighting, but fighting, because when the alphabet reform occurred in 1934, everybody started to write Ladino with the Latin letters, but according to their own judgment of what this should look like. So people who knew French, they wrote in the French way. People who knew English, they wrote in the English way. So people who there were even my friend Eliezer Papo says there were even newspapers and things written with the Cyrillic alphabet. I mean, it was a salad, a real mixed salad. Okay, so you know it was obviously necessary to standardize the alphabet. I mean, every language, respected language, has a standardized manner of writing. So Moshe Shaul had started a lot of work before this 1990s, collecting songs, and he needed some way to write these songs down. So he devised some kind of formula for transliterating the songs. And he thought, you know, the best way would be a phonetic way, because if you write it in the Spanish way, then there's a problem with the words that do not, with the sounds that do not exist in Spanish anymore, like the Z sounds. Please, everybody, casa is written with a K-A-Z-A, not C-A-S-A. Please, I mean, I've seen like 100 C-A-S-A's. Please, casa is written with a K-A-Z or Z-A, okay? Please, please, take care, please take care when you write things in Ladino, because of the sounds that are not Spanish sounds anymore, that sounds that have disappeared from Spanish. So it's very, very important how you write Ladino. And that's when I last participated in a union in 2002 in Paris. And there was this huge fight, but huge fight. I mean, people were nearly coming to hand fist. But it was about this standardization of the alphabet. I mean, imagine in 2003, in 2002. Then in 2003, I retired from the university where I was teaching English, by the way. And so I founded the Sephardic Center in Istanbul. Now, I knew that the first order of business would have to be the standardization of the alphabet, because we were planning on publishing things. You cannot publish certain things without a standard alphabet. So what I did was just gather all the people um, and with whom I had a very good relationship, who were at least a generation older than I was. And then I said, look, I mean, we have to come to an agreement. And then we came to an agreement to use the writing form of Aki Yerushalayim. And then the only people who did not agree were the Spanish, because they wanted to write Ladino in the Spanish way with a lot of diacritics here and there. And even the Spanish people couldn't read what they were writing. I mean, it's damn difficult. So, we said, well, all the Sephardim around the world, we are going to write in the same way, whether you join us or not. And that's how we standardized the alphabet, except for the diphthongs, as I said, you know, the ia, io, etc. One thing more that I would like to talk about is, it came up, that's why I want to tell you about it. There was the difference between Ladino and Haketia. Now, people from the south of Spain, they kind of moved over to Morocco. Morocco was never part of the Ottoman Empire. So these people who moved to Morocco, they continued to speak Spanish, but they were influenced from Arabic, obviously, because their major culture there were the Moroccan Muslims. So their language became Haketia. And today, a very, very small number of people speak Haketia, unfortunately. That is kind of disappearing. There are a few people who are trying to keep it alive. Alicia Sisoraz is one of them. Soli Levi was a great speaker, and he was a wonderful man. A lot of those Moroccan Jews live in Canada now. So we'll see what happens. Let's hope that it will continue. It's easy to understand, not very difficult, even though they have a lot of Arabic words. But as I told you before, I mean, Ottoman Turkish had a lot of Arabic words, and Turkish also has a lot of Arabic words. So, you know, for us Turks, it's not very difficult to understand Haketia, which has a lot of Arabic words. Okay. And I'm sure the Israelis also understand, because they also know Arabic. Okay, I hope this kind of overview was enough to get you into the real picture of what things were like. So today, okay, yes, we have a lot of needs for new words as well. I mean, obviously, there wasn't the kind of technological background that we now have. So for all these new technologies and things, we need new words. And what are we going to do? Well, we're going usually to use the what everybody else is using. You know, it's the internet, el internet, and la computadora, and el Zoom. And I mean, so it's okay. It's okay. I mean, languages never stay. That's also something else I want to say. Languages are never static. They always develop, because as long as there are people speaking it, then language is alive. And it develops, it goes on. And hopefully that's what we're trying to do here. We are trying to make Ladino go on. So any kind of influence that comes, today more influence is coming from Spanish, obviously, because people are kind of interacting a lot with Spanish speaking people. And for Spanish speaking people, learning Ladino is really very easy, okay? So after this lengthy kind of overview, but I felt, you know, it always came up in the WhatsApp group and in the mails and in everything else. So I thought I had to make a little framework for you all to understand what was going on. Okay, so I will share screen now. And we will see. Okay, so slideshow. Play from start. Okay, so this is the third lesson. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Buenos. Bienvenidos a la lección número 3. And now because I was asked, okay, how do I say, you know, greetings? So you have a few choices. Buenos días. That's, you know, the most common one. Buenas tardes, if it's the afternoon. Buenas noches, if it is the evening or night. A newly come into the language is hola. It's easy and it sounds like hello and it's very easy. So hola. My parents used to say bonjour or bonsoir or even merhaba. You know, merhaba. I shouldn't have written the H there. It's merhaba, okay? And that's from Turkish. So bonjour and bonsoir from French, hola from Spanish, and buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches from Ladino. So choose whichever you want and you can use whatever. Taking your leave. Buenos días. Okay, going. Buenas tardes. Buenas noches. Au revoir from French, obviously. Ciao from Italian. Saludes. Okay, we're going. So give my regards. Then you have this I like very much. So if somebody's going, even if they're going home after a visit, viaje bueno, if they're going to take a transportation vehicle. Or the one I love is caminos de leche y miel. May you have your roads paved with milk and honey. This is a beautiful saying and I love it. Caminos de leche y miel, which is really a wonderful kind of saying, may you have a very good trip, okay? Then, yes, this came up. Yeah, these are a few things that came up in the WhatsApp. People asked, now, enseñar is to teach. So, yo enseño el judeo-espanyol. Tú enseñas el inglés. Tú enseñas geografía, okay? Ambezar, yo te ambezo. I have to use an object pronoun. Yo te ambezo inglés. I teach you English if I am to use ambezar as such. If not, if I want to say I am learning, then I have to use a reflexive verb, which is ambezar se, just like llamarse. Como te llamas, yo me ambezo el inglés. I learn English, not yo ambezo inglés. That's a mistake I see often in all kinds of classes. I see that. There is a difference. Just ambezar, if you are not using the reflexive form, then it is to teach. If you want it to use it as to learn, then you have to use ambezar se. Yo me ambezo, tú te ambezas, él se ambeza, nosotros nos ambezamos, vosotros vos ambezás, ellos se ambezan. It is very important that you know the difference between these two, okay? I see a lot of confusion there. Then there was this, is it scola or escola? Okay, normally the word is actually escola, but during speech, now obviously when people are speaking, some kind of changes occur in the actual words. So when you say se va a la escola, there you see the e sound kind of disappears or is swallowed. But that occurs in a lot of languages as well. But actually the word, when you're writing it down, it is escola. When you pronounce it, if there is a vowel beforehand, like here, there's an la escola, then it's, yeah, it's usually the case that people say se va a la escola. Okay? I hope I have clarified that. Now there was this huge discussion about the kuzendera and shastre. Okay, kuzendera is always a woman. She's the dressmaker or seamstress, or she's the dressmaker. So una kuzendera es una mujer. Now the verb to sew is kuzir. Okay, it is kuzir. Now, Spanish people or Spanish-speaking people will think it's strange because in Spanish, the verb is coser. We should not confuse that with kuzir or kozer. Now, when you say kozer, it means you are heating up of some food, okay? So, I mean, that mistake occurred in Meam Loez when the Spanish professor was trying to make a transliteration. So shastre is a tailor for men. The shastres always sewed for men. So un shastre es un hombre. Now, okay, here's the text that I wrote. You might find it interesting. Who would like to read? Can I see some hands? I don't see any hands. Betty, yes, she raised a hand. Okay, Betty, start. Hi.
Nuestras madres llamaban las cuzenderas a journée. A veces mismo, 2 o 3 días de Syrah, si había de cosir cosas difíciles, por ejemplo, costumes o fustanes habillés.
Excellent, perfect. Stop there. Very good pronunciation. Yes, Bully, go ahead. Unmute yourself. Yes. Era también.
Era también de uso llamar a amigas y parientes que sabían cosir para ayudarle a la cosendera y para que sea más económico para la balabaya.
Excellent.
Mi padre se cansaba
no.
mucho.
Let's give a chance to somebody else. Debbie, I think, had raised her hand. So go ahead, Debbie.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Mi madre se cansaba mucho en estos días de cosendera porque cosía.
You have to say, porque cosía día entero.
Porque cosía día entero con la cosendera, de les servía a todos comer y beber.
De le servía, this is the Turkish, it's hem.
Le servía a todos comer y beber.
Okay, so what are we saying here? Nuestras madres llamaban las cosenderas a journée. This is how my mother used to say. A journée means daily, and obviously it is from French. So the dressmaker came in the morning. They had some kind of breakfast my mother prepared. I used to remember this. This is from when I was very little. And they had a little breakfast, some tea or coffee, and then they started sewing. So if my mother had a lot of things to be sewn, then a veces mismo 2 o 3 días de Syrah, then 2-3 days, following each other, she would come. So she would be contracted beforehand. And my mother would say, please come that week, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And of course, the difficult things would be the costumes or the suits. So that would be like a jacket with padded shoulders, and then there weren't any trousers, so it was mostly skirts and jackets. So or fostanes habillés. Now, when you say that, habillé is evening dress, also from French. So fostan comes from the Turkish word fistan, which means dress. So fostanes habillés, evening dress. And of course, they took more kind of, you know, they were long, more and more cloth for them, and etc. Era también de uso. It was also de uso is usual. It was usual. Llamar, to call, amigas y parientes, friends and parents, or like cousins or maybe aunts, que sabían coser, who knew how to sew and how to sew well. My mother was very, you know, meticulous about that. She wouldn't call anybody whom she considered couldn't sew. So, que sabían coser para ayudarle a la cuzendera. So, you know, the cuzendera has to be paid. And it's better if you finish everything quickly so that you don't have to pay another day. And that's what my mother was sewing like crazy the whole day long with the cuzendera. I remember that so clearly. She was like dead tired by the end of the day. Mi madre se cansaba mucho. My mother used to get really tired en estos días de cuzendera porque en cosía día entero. She both had to sew the day long, and les servía a todos a comer y a beber, and she also had to serve everybody to eat and drink. So balabaya is a word you need to know. That's the hostess. That's the person who receives the guests. And MM is both and. Okay, so we had some fun with that in the WhatsApp group. Right. Of course, here you have kind of past tenses, so don't really care about that. Just, you know, this was for fun. Okay, something very, very, very important that we have to learn is that there are two verb to be's in Ladino and in Spanish as well. Ser, that's the one that we learned. Yo soy, tú sos, él es, ella es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos son, okay? But there is also the verb estar. Yo estoy, tú estás, él está, ella está, nosotros estamos, vosotros estáis, ellos están. Now, what's the difference? Ser is used for things that are permanent. Yo soy una mujer. I'm a woman, right? It's permanent. Yo soy morena. I am kind of a brunette, right? Yo soy profesora. I'm a teacher. Yo soy tu madre. I say that to my daughter. I am your mother. I am, that's finished. However, the verb estar is for things that are temporary. Yo estoy cansada means I'm tired, but right now it's temporary. Maybe if I go to sleep for 2 hours, I will not be cansada anymore. Yo estoy cansada agora. Now I am tired. ¿Dónde estás? Where are you now? Not always, now. Él está en Buenos Aires. He is in Buenos Aires right now. I do not say él es de Buenos Aires. Then it would be, he is from Buenos Aires, which means, okay, he's from there originally. So, if I say, él está en Buenos Aires, then right now he's in Buenos Aires. Nosotros estamos muy honrosos. We are very happy right now. Nosotros estamos muy honrosos right now, but tomorrow we can be sad. I don't know. It's a temporary state of affairs. Vosotros estás en la escuela. You are in school right now, en la escuela. But a las 4 de la tarde, vosotros salís de la escuela y vos vais a casa. Okay, so then it's temporary. Ellos están, what can I say? Ellos están aquí. So they are here right now. Okay, so there's a big difference when you're using these two verbs. And there were a lot of mistakes in the homework about that. So let us see. Ser. This verb talks about permanent states of being. Yo soy turca. Tú sos profesora. Él es de Francia. Nosotros somos seriosos. We are serious. Vosotros sois doctores. Ellos son de Andalucía. But estar. Yo estoy cansada. Tú estás en clase. Él está aquí. Nosotros estamos honrosos. Vosotros estáis tristes, which means sad. Vosotros estáis tristes. Ellos están en el hospital. They are at the hospital right now. Okay, so please study these, and what I want you to do is write a few sentences that show the difference between ser and estar. First homework. Then I have another irregular verb for you today, and that's the verb tener. Tener is to have. Tengo, that's irregular because it starts with tengo, tienes, tiene. Tenemos, tenéis, tienen. Now, tengo una casa colorada. I have a red house. Mi amigo, my friend, tiene un auto verde. He has a green car. Sara y Sibel tienen paltos pretos. Sarah and Sibel have black coats. Tú tienes flores coloradas. You have red flowers. Mis amigos tienen calemes pretos. My friends have black pencils. Nosotros tenemos casas blancas. So we have white houses. Then, and here comes, ¿cuántos años tienes? How old are you? So, see, in English, it's the verb to be. In Spanish, it's the verb to have. How many years do you have? And then you answer, tengo 20 años. I am 20. So please take care that there's a big difference between English and Ladino, and also Spanish, it's the same, that you use have, the verb to have, tener, with how old you are, okay? Oh, also, in the homeworks, people try to make questions. Please, there is no question form in Spanish. You just, what you do is you write the sentence normally and you ask the question with your voice. Tú tienes 20 años. Tú tienes 20 años. Tú tienes 20 años. You are 20. Tú tienes 20 años. It's the same. I don't put a question form, okay? Except for the cuántos, obviously. ¿Cuántos años tienes? I mean, there's got to be a question word there. Then, another important verb, and please do not write this verb with H-A-C-E-R, okay? This is the verb hacer, and it means to do. Hago, haces, hace, hacemos, haces, hacen. Like, ¿qué haces? Oh, hago un buen café. ¿Hacemos la siesta? Shall we go and have a nap? Sí, estoy cansado. Yes, I'm tired. En este restaurante hacen buen kebab. So kebab is a very nice meat dish in Turkey and elsewhere as well. In this restaurant, they make a very good kebab. And then you say, oh, muy bien, vamos, hayde, vamos. Okay, here we come to the dialogues. Do we have time? Yes, we have time. Okay. Hands, please. I think I saw Noah a little bit before. So Noah, unmute yourself. And Susanna Behar also. So one of you is Mary, one of you is 40.
Okay. Hi, I will be Mary.
Okay.
Buenos días, señora Forti. ¿Cómo estás?
Buenos días. So please enunciate properly. Buenos días, señora Forti. Repeat.
Buenos,
Come on.
buenos días.
I answered already? Okay. Buenos días, Mary. Buena. ¿Y tú?
No muy buena, esto un poco esfriada.
Yes, estoy un poco esfriada. It means I have caught a cold. Un poco esfriada, a little bit, yes.
Tío. Es de los tiempos. Un día hace calor, otro día hace frío.
Oh, and she says, oh, it's because of the, you know, the weather. One day it's hot, the other day it's cold.
Tengo dolor de cabeza.
Tengo dolor de cabeza. Dolor de cabeza is headache.
Oh.
And she says, I have a headache.
Toma un aspirín, Hanuma, y ya te pasa presto.
Yeah, so take an aspirin, my dear, and it will go away quickly.
Sí,
As you can see, presto is the word that comes from Italian. Okay. Go ahead, Mary.
Sí, agora tomo un aspirín.
Pasado sea.
Merci mucho.
Okay, pasado sea, it is an expression that comes from the Turkish geçmiş olsun. Obviously, it's not from the Spanish, it's from the Turkish culture, and Turkish itself has many good wishes for people when they do things. Like, for example, when somebody's working, they say, kolay gelsin, which means que te sea kolay, que te sea fácil. And we have adapted all these nice wishes into our language as well, because they are nice. And I haven't seen in other languages these kinds of good wishes for people when they do things, okay? So geçmiş olsun and pasado sea are the same thing, which means let it be over with. May you have good health again, okay? So let's read it again. I want to other people. April, I can see you here. So unmute yourself. And Sibel Razon, yes. Miriam, you'll be next, yes. So April, go ahead.
Buenos días, señora Forti. ¿Cómo estás?
Buenos días, Mary. Buena, ¿y tú?
No muy buena. Estoy Esto un poco esfriada.
Atio, es de los tiempos. Un día hace calor, otro día hace frío.
Tengo dolor de cabeza.
Toma una aspirina, Numa, y ya te va a pasar, ya te pasa presto.
Sí, agora tomo un aspirin.
Agora,
Agora
tomo un aspirín.
tomo un aspirin.
Pasado sea.
Merci mucho.
Very good. Okay. Okay, we need a guy and a girl. Who was next from the girls? I want a guy too. Hands. Please, hands. Noah and yes, Miriam. Okay, we have two girls. Noah, are you a girl or a boy?
I'm a girl. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll be Dora. Buenos días. Okay. Whoever wants to be. Buenos días. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Me llamo Davut. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo te llamas?
Me llamo Dora. ¿Tú sos estudiante aquí?
No, yo laboro aquí.
Just a minute. A little bit more question form. ¿Tú sos estudiante aquí?
Okay.
Use the inflection, okay?
¿Tú sos estudiante aquí?
Excellent.
No, yo laboro aquí.
¿Qué haces?
Soy contable. ¿Y tú qué haces?
Excellent.
Yo soy profesora de inglés.
Ah, muy bueno. ¿Laboras cada día?
No, laboro solo 3 días a la semana. ¿Y tú?
Yo laboro cada día.
Oh, bad luck. Okay, so Dora asks what is his name, and he says, well, obviously it's because Davut is a boy's name. Me llamo Davut. My name is Davut, and you? What's your name? My name is Dora. Are you a student here? He says, no, I work here. And she says, what do you do? And he says, I am an accountant. And you, what do you do? And Dora says, I'm a teacher of English. And then he says, oh, very good. Do you work every day? And she says, no, I work 3 days a week. And you? I work every day. So let me have 2 more people to read this. Wendy and Igal. Go ahead. Are you unmuted? Go ahead. Wendy, you start.
Wendy and Igal, you're both unmuted, so whenever you're ready.
I'm Davut, right? So Dora starts, I think.
Yes. Igal, you are Davut, and Wendy is Dora.
Looks like Wendy's having some trouble with the audio. Maybe pick someone else for now.
Oh, okay. So I need another girl. Yes, Sima.
Buenos días. Buenos días. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Me llamo Davut. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo te llamas?
Me llamo Dora. ¿Tú sos estudiante aquí?
No, yo laboro aquí.
¿Qué haces?
Soy contable.
Contable. So contable.
So contable. ¿Y tú?
Obviously a French word.
¿Y tú qué haces?
Yo soy profesora de inglés.
Ah, muy bueno. ¿Laboras cada día?
No, laboro solo 3 días a la semana. ¿Y tú?
Yo laboro cada día.
Very good. Okay, what do you say we learn a song? Always. And I will keep these dialogues for next week. Now, I want to tell you about this nice young man who used to be my student. Wait a minute, yes. His name is Alper Almelek. He was my student of Ladino when I was teaching in Ladino in Cervantes, in the Cervantes Institute in the year 2005, 2006. So then that year, there was a song competition in Israel called Festi Ladino. And Alper, he composed 3 songs. And of the 3, I like this one quite a lot. It's a tango, and he composed it. I wrote the lyrics, and then Izette and I, when we went to Israel and sang not this song, but there was another one that was a finalist, and we came in second. But this song I particularly like because it's about Istanbul, and it says, well, everything is on the title, Istanbul mi amor, and Istanbul my love. So let's go over the lyrics. Istanbul de 7 montes, Istanbul of 7 hills, nos mira de sus árboles, looks at us through its trees, la historia y sus flores, its history and its flowers, un cante de sus amores, a song of its loves. Semos entornados por la mar, we are surrounded by the sea. No podemos vivir sin nadar, we cannot live without swimming. El Bosfor y las islas, the Bosphorus and the islands, una magia muy especial, a very special magic. Bebe un chai en el vapor, drink some tea on the ship, que se va por el Bosfor, that goes through the Bosphorus. Hazeremos kef con ti. Now, let us enjoy ourselves with you, but this is, hazer kef is a very, very specific, very special term that comes from Turkish and Ladino together. Kef is something the Israelis will understand because it's used also in Hebrew. It's a kind of a state of well-being, of enjoyment, of liking what you're doing, of, having kef. En el aire de Istanbul, in the Istanbul breeze. So Istanbul mi ciudad, Istanbul, my city, llena de felicidad, full of happiness, un amor a eternidad, a love to eternity, Istanbul mi amor, Istanbul my love, Istanbul vivo, Istanbul alive, Istanbul lleno, Istanbul very full, 20 million people, population, Istanbul luzio, this, please, Spanish speakers, luzio means full of light, it means very beautiful, it means very pretty. Don't have it in Spanish anymore. Istanbul, mi amor. Shall we listen to it? It's a nice song. This is in our last CD of Los Pacharos, Tangos Sefaradis del Deep del Baúl. Okay, here we go. Istanbul de 7 montes, nos mira de sus árboles, la historia y sus flores, un cante de sus amores. Semos entornados por la mar, no podemos vivir sin nada. El Bosfor y las islas, una magia muy especial. Bebe un chai en el vapor, que se va por el Bosfor, hazeremos que contigo en el aire de Estambul, Estambul mi ciudad, lleno de felicidad, un amor a eternidad. Estambul, mi amor. Estambul de 7 montes, mira de sus árboles, la historia y sus flores, un cante de sus amores. Estemos entornados por la mar, no podemos vivir sin nada. El Bósforo y las islas, una magia muy especial. Bebe un chai en el vapor, que se va por el Bósforo. Haceremos que contigo en el aire de Estambul. Estambul, mi ciudad, llena de felicidad, un amor a eternidad. Estambul, mi amor. Estambul vivo, Estambul lleno, Estambul lucio, Estambul mi amor, Estambul vivo, Estambul lleno, Estambul lucio, Estambul mi amor. Estambul vivo, Estambul lleno, Estambul lucio, Estambul mi amor. Thank you. I hope you liked it. Better memorize it. Now, oh, I meant to write, okay. Stop share. Okay. I meant to write Happy New Year to all of you. So I'm writing it here now in chat. You can copy it. Añada nueva, buena y clara, con salud buena y mucha felicidad. Okay, so añada nueva, buena y clara, good and clear, nice. Con salud buena, with good health, that is very important, y mucha felicidad. Okay, añada nueva, buena y clara, con salud buena y mucha felicidad. So, al vernos al año que viene, en 2021, con mucha felicidad y, bueno, sonrisas grandes y salud buena a todos, ¿ok? Amen. Yes, definitely. Añada buena. Yes, thank you. Okay, very, very nice. Okay, see you all next year. Ethan, you want to say something?
Añada buena y dulce para todos. Thank you all so much. Inshallah, te quiero Dios. We'll see you in a better New Year than the last. God willing.
Amen. Okay, I will say, de tu boca a los cielos. Wait, I'll write this down. De tu boca a los cielos. From your mouth to the skies, meaning to God.
Amen.
De tu boca a los cielos. Okay. Where are you writing? I don't see it in chat. It's right above what you wrote. Okay. Okay, guys. See you next week. Bye.
Nos vemos.